Maerwyn was a quiet village nestled in the valley between two towering mountains, where the stars seemed to hang lower in the sky. The people there lived simple lives, bound to the earth and seasons. They tilled their land, raised livestock, and told stories passed down from their ancestors. But above all, the villagers revered the stars. They called them the silent stars, celestial guardians who watched over Maerwyn with an unspoken promise of protection. Every year, during the Festival of Lights, the people would gather in the village square to give thanks for the stars' guidance. It was said that as long as the stars remained in the sky, Maerwyn would know peace. But everything changed one fateful night when the stars began to disappear. It started with a single star, one of the brightest in the constellation known as the Guardian's Sword. Elder Sifrin, the village historian, was the first to notice. His old bones had kept him awake long after the others had gone to bed. And as he sat by his window, watching the night sky as he always did, he saw it. A star that had burned for as long as he could remember flickered, and then went out. The next night, another star vanished, and then another. By the third night, the village was in an uproar. Sifrin gathered the villagers in the square, his face as pale as the moonlight that bathed them. "The stars are vanishing," he announced, his voice trembling with fear. "Something is coming." Among the crowd stood Talia, a young woman with dark hair and eyes that gleamed like the night sky. She had always felt a connection to the stars, more so than anyone else in the village. She had spent countless nights lying in the fields, staring up at them, feeling as if they were trying to speak to her, though they never did. Talia had always believed that the stars held secrets, that they were more than just distant lights in the sky. And now, as she listened to Elder Sifrin's warning, a knot of dread tightened in her stomach. "What do we do?" one of the villagers asked. "If the stars disappear, will the village be lost?" Elder Sifrin shook his head. "I do not know. This has never happened before." "But you said something is coming." Talia spoke up, stepping forward. "What do you mean?" The old man looked at her with eyes that were clouded by both age and fear. "There is an ancient tale, one that I had hoped was just a story. It speaks of the fallen ones, beings from beyond the stars who come when the sky grows dark. They bring with them a great shadow, and where they walk, the land withers." The villagers exchanged nervous glances. No one had ever heard of the fallen ones, but the fear in Sifrin's voice was enough to unsettle even the bravest among them. "How do we stop them?" Talia asked. "There is only one way," Sifrin said, his voice a whisper now. "We must go to the Celestial Lake and speak with the last of the Star Wardens. It is said that they alone hold the knowledge to rekindle the stars." The Celestial Lake was a sacred place, hidden deep within the mountains. Few had ever made the journey, and even fewer had returned. But Talia knew that she had no choice. If the stars continued to vanish, the village would fall into darkness, and with it, everything she had ever known. "I'll go," Talia said, her voice steady. Elder Sifrin looked at her, surprised. "You? But it's dangerous." "I'm not afraid," Talia interrupted. "The stars have always spoken to me, even if I didn't understand their words. If there's anyone who can make the journey, it's me." The villagers murmured amongst themselves, but no one stepped forward to oppose her. They knew Talia's connection to the stars was deeper than their own, and if anyone had a chance of saving them, it was her. "Very well," Sifrin said at last. "But you must not go alone. You will need help." "I'll go with her," said a voice from the back of the crowd. Talia turned to see Finn, a tall, broad-shouldered man with kind eyes and a fierce determination in his expression. Finn had been her friend since childhood, and though they had grown apart in recent years, Talia knew she could trust him. "Finn," she began, but he cut her off with a shake of his head. "You're not doing this alone," he said. "We'll find the Star Wardens together." The journey to the Celestial Lake was long and treacherous. Talia and Finn travelled through dense forests and rocky terrain, the path winding ever higher into the mountains. As they ascended, the air grew colder and the sky seemed darker than it had ever been. Each night, more stars vanished from the sky, leaving behind only emptiness. On the third night, they camped beneath a jagged cliff, the wind howling around them. Talia lay awake, staring up at the sky. The constellation of the Guardian's Sword was now completely gone. Its stars snuffed out like candles. Only a few stars remained, scattered across the heavens like forgotten jewels. "What if we're too late?" Talia whispered, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Finn, sitting beside her, poked the fire with a stick. "We're not. We can't be." Talia shook her head. "The stars are disappearing faster now. I can feel it. It's like they're being pulled away one by one." Finn didn't respond for a moment. But then he said, "We'll make it to the lake. We'll find the Star Wardens. We have to believe that." Talia wanted to believe him, but the growing sense of dread in her chest was hard to ignore. The next day, they reached the entrance to a narrow canyon, its walls rising high above them. According to the map Sifrin had given them, the Celestial Lake lay at the end of this canyon, hidden within the heart of the mountain. As they entered the canyon, the temperature dropped even further, and the air felt heavy, as if the very earth was holding its breath. Talia's skin prickled, and she glanced up at the sky. There were only a handful of stars left, barely enough to light their way. "We're close," she said, though her voice was tight with apprehension. They pressed on, their footsteps echoing off the canyon walls. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional gust of wind. But as they neared the end of the canyon, the silence was shattered by a low, rumbling sound. Talia and Finn froze, their eyes widening in alarm. "What was that?" Finn whispered, his hand going to the hilt of his sword. Talia didn't answer. She didn't need to. She knew what it was. The fallen ones had come. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, and a shadow passed overhead. Talia looked up in horror as a massive figure emerged from the darkness, its form towering and grotesque, with limbs too long and eyes that glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. It moved slowly, as if it were part of the night itself, its presence suffocating. "Run!" Talia shouted, grabbing Finn's arm. They sprinted toward the end of the canyon, their hearts pounding in their chests. But the fallen one was faster. It let out a bone-chilling screech, and the ground shook beneath its weight. Just as they reached the mouth of the canyon, the creature lunged forward, its long, shadowy arms stretching out to ensnare them. But before it could reach them, a brilliant light exploded from the darkness, blinding them both. Talia shielded her eyes, her heart racing. When she finally dared to look, The fallen one was gone, and in its place stood a figure draped in shimmering robes, their face hidden beneath a hood. "You have come far," the figure said, their voice soft but commanding. "But you are not yet safe. Come." Talia and Finn followed the figure out of the canyon and into a clearing where the celestial lake lay before them, its surface smooth as glass, reflecting the few remaining stars in the sky. The figure turned to them, pulling back their hood, to reveal a face that was both ageless and wise. "I am Maerwyn, the last of the Star Wardens. You seek to rekindle the stars, do you not?" Talia nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "The stars are disappearing. Our village, our world, depends on them." Maerwyn regarded her with a solemn gaze. "The stars are not merely lights in the sky. They are the lifeblood of the universe, connected to all living things. When they fade, so too does life. The fallen ones have come.